So there will be a quiz at the end. We do not grade on the curve. I don't have any more Snickers bars with me because I left them in the car. I do have a couple of old-fashioned donuts left. We're going to start this off actually in two phases. Tim is going to come up and talk first because he's the founder of this, and he actually went head-to-head with a couple of Christian bookstores to say, hey, we'll promote games here. I can tell you all about that. Christian bookstores ramped up in their heyday in the 70s and 80s in the Jesus movement, led by a couple things: Bibles, vacation Bible school curriculum, Sunday school materials, tchotchkes, Thomas Kincaid pictures, painter of light, and of course music. Then the internet came. There's about a third of them left now. In the Pacific Northwest, which is the most unchurched region in the United States, by the way, we went from 30 to, I think, 4 in 10 years. And the main reason for this, the demographic for the person going into a Christian bookstore is a woman ages 45 and older buying 3 things: Bibles, music, and what would Jesus do junk. Games are nowhere on that list because their kids wouldn't go in there. So, with that being said, what's funny is you've got portals like Big Fish Games and PopCap, and who guess what their demographic is? Women ages 40 on up, playing hidden object games or other adventure games on there. That's 65% of their paying population. So, it's rather interesting. But in the beginnings of the 2000s, going in and pushing Christian games, Mr. Tim's going to come up and talk to you about the stores that he worked with and the responses. And the only success really was digital praise at that time, and that's because they had a physical product to sell with that. So,
and decent products.
And decent products as well, too. Come on up, sir.
Howdy, everybody. So I'm Tim.
Hi, Tim.
In 1998, I started Graceworks Interactive. Actually, my wife was kind of involved, and it was because I love games. Christian, and I was going to do games no matter what. I was going to be a Christian no matter what. So making Bible-based games made sense. Our first thing was actually a text adventure with Tad, so it was kind of funny to see Scott here. Ours was pitiful compared to his. But in the meantime, especially with the conference, sorry. What did you say about turning?
Vibrate. It's okay, we'll have you write demerits at the end.
So with the conference starting in 2002, I got to meet all these great people, and Peter, he went by Stone, Engelbright was one of them. And he's the fellow that back in DOS days made Captain Bible and Bible Builder, and at the time hadn't started, but he went to work on the curriculum Alpha Omega.
Yep.
And then he had these great games, and actually Scripture Solitaire has been one of my best sellers. And that came out in 2002. And I think it only took him a few months. The man is a genius. God really blessed him. And he had some other ones, Godspeed 3D, One Nation Under God, that he rebranded as Christian Founders. And then Truthware, where he combined them. And then there's other, like Virtue Games, they had Naka. So I was like, well, how can I help these brothers? And we were still trying to work on our game and get some other ideas. So I was like, he's already got the game. Surely people want to buy this, right? Okay. So I actually went from a developer to a distributor. So I got copies of the game from him, and then that was around 2003. And actually, I think some of my early success was like softwareoutlet.com, which was actually owned by a Christian. So I was just seeing where people were buying games and was contacting them. Hey, will you carry these products? And they actually bought some and had them online. And then, like Seth was saying, well, if you just think about Bible-based games, what immediately pops in your mind? Well, you guys are going to think differently, but at the time, it was Christian retailers or Christian bookstores. So that was when I set the goal, I'm gonna be in every Christian retailer in Oregon. And that was the goal. You know, if I pick up some other out-of-state ones, that's great. So started the push, we were making some good progress. There's some smaller chains around that Christian retailers were here, as well as Washington, and I think they have one store in Idaho, so about 12 stores. And Joe Bramwell was their buyer, and he was great. He picked up the games, and he actually paid. Something else the smaller bookstores wanted was consignment. Let me just define consignment for you. Consignment is where you get stuff for free if you're the store owner, and you put it on the shelf, hopefully in a place where people see it, and not under a pile of things called dust and dirt. And then when it sells, you give a percentage back to the person who nicely loaned it to you for free. Essentially, it's a loan. And so, on the mom and pop Christian retailers, that was the only way to get product in the store, so that's what we did. So here's free product, please help sell that. Do we have marketing dollars? I know I didn't. Was I a marketer? Definitely not. Obviously, as you can tell, I can't even speak straight sometimes. And that was even before it got digital praise. So I was primarily pushing just a few products at the time. And we didn't even have our game out at the time either. So that kept going. We added more product, which made it a little bit more attractive, especially to the smaller chains. Instead of here's 2 or 3 things, here's 6 or 7 things, and they could envision it like an end cap. Hopefully we got an end cap. End cap's the end aisle, like in Walmart. So it's more visible than, hey, you gotta go down the middle of the aisle and look down. Oh, there's the games. So, usually we got stuck with redemption card games, which at least they were popular, so folks were coming in and asking for them. And a few board games that were out. Anybody ever see Bibleopoly?
I think so.
I don't remember if I tried that one. I was like, really? Okay. And so, some effort. We tried. We were making actually decent progress. And then, does anyone know what happened in 2007 and 2008 time frame? Yeah. Jinjin, how would you describe 2007?
Nationwide, the economy, recession.
Yeah, recession. So some folks were too big to fail, which I thought I was one of them. I'm pretty big. Housing bubble. People essentially stopped buying stuff. If it wasn't milk and bread, they stopped buying it. And so we didn't have great sales to begin with, so they went to even less great. But then the other trend that happened, the bookstores started closing, especially the mom and pops. Thankfully, some of them had been in business long enough that they were able to retire. I don't know if they had planned on doing that, but because of that, they retired. A lot of them just had to close. And we actually got some of the product back. Remember, a lot of this was on loan. It was still technically ours. So I got to learn how to write off through the IRS when you get a loss, when you don't get stuff back. And then the smaller chains started to close. And so it was a really sad day when Christian retailing closed. They actually got bought out by...
Not Christian Supply. It was.
And so that was a sad day. And I'll let Seth suggest ways that hopefully they could have stayed alive. Now separately, we were still pushing online. So, we've got an eBay store and we're on Amazon just as a marketplace seller. We have our own website. So we're still pushing online. But the trend there, and so you try to get into Berean.com, Mardells.com, the online equivalent of the big chains. And we actually got in FamilyChristian.com, and Family Christian, if you don't know, is the largest retailer, Christian retailer. They had like 600 600, 700 stores, or did they have more at their
They
peak?
had more at their peak,
Oh,
but
okay.
they're down to that.
There's
So-
still one in Bend, I believe, from last I checked. But we're, people were looking online, that's when the internet was taking off. And people were actually using it. But those started to close as well. And what I noticed was, the ones we were with, basically sold their customer base and even their URL sometimes. And CBD was picking them up. So Christian book distributors, if you are old like me, you used to get something in the mail before internet. It's called a catalog. It was paper. It's like, oh. And it was cool because it was like the Sears catalog,
Yeah.
but it had everything Christian in it. And sometimes they have a very small section on Christian games, computer games, and there'll be card games and usually board games. And there's usually the Christmas edition. And so I think CBD is probably the last big player, other than Family Christian still has a website.
And
So-
Lifeway,
Hmm?
and Lifeway,
Lifeway does.
Martell's.
And Mardell's does it. Although I think they've all shrunk number of stores. Having a store is as you can imagine, a big expense. So either you're owning the property, or if you do a Walmart model, you build and then you sell it to somebody and then you rent it back. And that way your obligation is less. So if you need to close that store, it's super easy. But just paying for electricity and insurance, all the overhead is insane. And so that's the trend. And I haven't seen very many new Christian bookstores start up, except in my town, Tree of Life. They had, again, another smaller chain, but thankfully the local manager, when they shut down, which was a year and a half ago, local manager was able to buy it, and so it's one store just still open, and that's the trend now. If there's anybody left, it's either a chain or they're a mom and pop.
So, a couple questions to get you right here. I couldn't find the whole fireside back screen drop, so we'll just pretend there's a fireplace right here. It's burning in this part. We met in '05, which was my first CGDC here through Dan Olds. And you had been working with the group in Portland to do presentations of Christian games in their stores.
True.
How did that conversation start and where did it go? with
So,
them?
so once you got the product in the store, again, a lot of the workers didn't even know what a Christian game was. They knew the card game, that's pretty obvious. They knew board games sometimes, unless it was a weird spin game. And so to encourage them especially around Christmas time, we would offer to come in and do product demos. So bring in a laptop or 2 or 3, set them up, let the kids play on them, so the parents and the customers actually get to try them. And that came about just by asking. And I've been able to do it in Corvallis and Albany, Portland, back when these stores were open. So that was, for them, it's like not quite as good as, Toby Mac coming in. Well, let's do a little mini concert, CD signing. But at least it was something to get a spotlight on the product. And so that was real valuable. They saw it as a free sales, basically an extra sales worker who was knowledgeable for at least a few hours. And the good stores would, like Christian retailers, they were promoted ahead of time, have flyers out. And the other stores would, oh, you're here, and throw you in the corner. Usually at the back of the store.
Usually at the back of the
It's a
store.
wonderful place. It's like milk, right, in the grocery store. Yeah, it's back there somewhere. Hopefully they'll find you. That's not necessarily the case, right? Not every Christian bookstore put Bible at the back. And so that was at least something that generated some sales and helped keep us in the stores, because that space is valuable because of the overhead. And so that was, especially around Christmas, we would do those. And I use the proverbial we because I'm a teen guy. So it's usually just me and maybe 1 or 2 of my kids. So
Cool. So Christian retail, like any retail right now, is not Satan. Brick and mortar, they know what they want, they know what sells, they know their client demographic. Their client demographic is not you. VentureBeat had an article in about a month ago that there are 40 million gamers in North America over the age of 50. How many of you right here in this room are over the age of 50?
I'm getting there.
There you go. How many people go into a Christian bookstore over the age of 50, right? Their demographic would on that part. So the cool thing about gaming is that as an evergreen property, it will age because the generation that really started to gaming in the 80s is getting older. And they are getting into it. The biggest problem was the decision makers. We're all in their 70s and 80s and sometimes 90s who bought the stuff for the stores. And games were the devil. Or games are bad. Or they would point to you and go, where in the Bible does it mention games? So, Sunday school teacher here, there is one game mentioned in the Bible. Does anybody know what that game is?
Yes, they ruled slots for Jesus'
Right, lots.
Casting
Cast of
lots.
lots.
Right,
And that's both in the Old Testament and the New Testament, there were cast lots. That wasn't a game, that was actually a decision-making capability from the oracles, that type of thing, or God would say, here's what happened. There was never a fun result with casting lots in the Old Testament. And in the New Testament, well, the soldiers casted lot for Jesus' clothes. So in the Christian worldview in this aspect, there's a definite need for Christian books because God's Word, the Bible, first book ever printed, right? People read books, they get knowledge through books. There is a definite need for music, well, because Lucifer. Music, God's form of great worship was music. Music is mentioned all throughout the Bible. We need to have alternatives to what the world has. So yeah, we need to have Christian rap, Christian rock, and everything else, and that took off as well too. Film. Film is storytelling in a verbal sense and visual sense. We need that as an alternative to what the world has to offer. Games. Storytelling.
everything.
Even the worldview, games of storytelling and narrative hasn't happened really until the last 5 years become impactful, and that is because of one IP alone that's been able to push that, kind of like we saw with Pokemon Go for VR. That's The Walking Dead. Walking Dead is a narrative storyteller, turned the whole zombie thing on its head because it gave the point of view of the survivors, not just the zombies, you know, and blew that up. And Skybound is taking that to the extreme on that part. But that took narrative storytelling, and the power of the narrative in a video game became prominent at that point in time, even though most of us already knew it. But to all the people that matter in business, and as the bean counters and the CEOs, narrative didn't matter, you just sold stuff. The video game industry has always been on the cutting edge. Retail for video games has been on the cutting edge to a certain degree, except that it started falling because of something called the internet, online streaming, and something called Steam. You all know what Steam is here? Yes, 80% of all PC sales, Steam. So, how many of you guys go into the store, Walmart, Fred Meyer, whatever, regularly and go to the computer aisle or to the video game aisle? It's okay, we're all friends here, you may raise your hand. If you haven't, let me assign you homework, you should. Because back in the 80s and the 90s and the heydays of the PC, you would have a wall this far long filled with PC games. Now you will see something about the size of this stand filled with PC games, and those would not even be boxes, those would be cards. There will be some, but in that section will be the size of this. Because that space is a premium. You walk into a Walmart, you are worth $87 to them. You're not even a person, you are in money. They know on average that a person who walks into Walmart will spend $87. And 90 cents. There's a little carryover. So, the end cap and everything is important. Christian retail had the same formula, and games did not fit that. And part of that is culture. Worldview-wise, even with the Billy Graham people, which I met with, American Bible Society, Scripture Union, the Foursquare Church Movement, and the Assemblies of God, and the Southern Baptists, and the Lutherans through Concordia Publishing, they don't do games. Unless it was tied to one thing and one thing only: Sunday school curriculum and vacation Bible school. Because that is what's keeping Christian publishing afloat, because the markup on vacation Bible school is approximately 800 to 900%. Why? Because about 30 years ago, VBS really took off, and it's a recruitment tool for most senior pastors to get families to come into the church, because we're going to throw on a summer camp for a week, and we need supplies for that camp. So, the average church in America is around 200 some odd people. They have about 30 kids, but they hope to have 90 kids if they're VBS. They need volunteers, so they'll spend $500 to $1,000 for a week's worth of content. Whereas the average spend for a year's worth of curriculum for Sunday school is roughly $200 to $300 for the year. That it will spend money on. And what Christian Retail found out, to its detriment, is that the children's pastors and leaders are the ones who are computer savvy, and they would not go to a Christian bookstore to buy this anymore, like they did back in the 80s and 90s. They would buy it online or at events. Mainly the International Network of Children's Ministries, the Children's Pastors Conferences, Orange, D12, Catalyst, and a few others. And that hurt them, and they were very slow to get on the uptake for that. So, nowadays, most pastors will not grace the presence of a Christian bookstore. Why? Because they're too busy, they can buy it online, and to the 1 or 2 conferences they go to a year, they'll buy the content there. Because there'll be 7,500 of them there, and they'll see what other people are buying, and they'll follow into that trend. Still, the number one thing being bought is Bibles. The closest interactive Bible ever done was called the Fire Bible, led by the Assemblies of God. Has anybody here ever heard of the Fire Bible? It was an NIV Bible produced for kids. They used augmented reality, came out in 2011. Qualcomm Euphoria promoted it, even. Did they take off? Absolutely, sold incredibly well. The next one was a comic book Bible. The Action Bible. Have we seen anything interactive with the Action Bible? No, because most people will go, let's do about this much and then stop. Because that's where our comfort level is, and that's what we believe the kids want. And those people are all 60, 70, and 80 years old still. Although, talking to the guys at Lifeway at the Northwest Ministry Conference this year, the average age of the person writing curriculum in their office has now fallen down to 43. Their overhead is still huge because they're paying people a living wage, a ton, and retirement and everything else. People who are still doing the drawings and everything. And this is the great thing about the Christian marketplace. They are afraid of risk. So in 1978, when Sunday school curriculum in its forte started growing, it was not okay to have the rainbow in anything else but the Noah's Ark story. Does anybody know why? Well, first off, before I say that, does anybody here alive in 1978 that played games? All right. I was 2, so I didn't play games. But that's official. So, 1978, it was wrong of you to have the rainbow in Noah's Ark because of something called the New Age movement, spirituality. The rainbow represented that, except in the Noah's Ark. None of the Christian denominations wanted to confuse anything. God's first symbol to us, really, and we still don't have access to it anymore. Because now it's the whole LGBTQT ZXY movement.
We'll get that love, but it's okay.
So, even prior to that though, does anybody know if the pentagram is a Christian symbol? Yeah, anybody know what the pentagram stood for? Not the Star of Solomon. I was 6-sided. It stood for the 5 wounds that Christ had. 1 on each arm, 1 on each hand, the 1 on the side. wasn't until the Middle Ages when it got turned upside down. The Salem witch trials actually promoted it upside down as a sign of the devil, that the pentagram became something bad. In fact, the lily was a Christian symbol as well, too. Anybody here have seen the lily in a video game at all? No, it's a symbol of death now because people will clasp it this way. There are a ton of Christian symbols out there, starting back to the very beginning, and that are tied into Judaism as well, too, that we've never even claimed that would make wonderful games and tchotchkes for people to wear as a multi-level marketing tool. We haven't gone there yet. Because the church, especially North America, hates risk. Absolutely hates risk in any way, shape, or form. We are willing to send missionaries out to die, but we are not willing to spend money because we may lose money. American Bible Societies have been around for 200 plus years. They're sitting on a couple $100 million, and they still, after 5 years, have not spent too much money on their partnerships with the Aetherlight or other companies to promote Christian gaming. Why? Because they're old, and they hate risk, and they want a metric that they can respond to, and they can give that metric to the people who give them money who are all in their 70s, and that is, we handed out 15 million Bibles, therefore we are doing God's word. A Bible in a video game is similar to China through a mobile app, and reach far more people than actual physical Bible in that part.
I wonder why Christianity is not making a larger impact than
And yet ISIS has video games. So, in that aspect, you have to be smart about marketing, because your core demographic is the world, because Christian Sunday school teachers use video games to a certain degree. I've seen them. They play Angry Birds. And they play Minecraft, and Minecraft, amazing game for the church in that part. There are people who are building churches inside Minecraft. Second Life was used by churches to do outreach. You go to youth groups, and they don't play Grand Theft Auto, but they will play Need for Speed. Yeah, they'll play Mortal Kombat, they'll get Call of Duty going, that type of thing, to get the kids to come in. Because we, as North American Christians, I'm separating those from the Europeans I've met, and those in India, and those in the Middle East when I've gone over there, we put more emphasis on what our kids read, or watch on TV, or listen to music-wise, than play a video game. Even though the kids will spend more time on this than they will on those other mediums combined. And we now have a generation growing up as parents in their 20s who will hand their kid a $600 device at the age of 2 to keep them quiet. Whereas if I had ever touched a $600 device at the age of 2, I would have been dead. So, in that aspect for you for marketing your games, you have to have an indie mindset, because not because you don't have money, because we all have money, but because you're going after gamers. Because the same people that want to play Christian games are the same people playing all the other games out there. Because there are very few families who will say, or denominations, no, you can't play this game, you need to play this game out there. But there are delineations in music and in film and in literature that way. And that's really a cultural thing. So, that being said, I'm about to show you something that is very informative about how Game of Thrones became marketed. And they do use the word sex once, so I do apologize for that ahead of time in case I offend somebody. But we're going to have a quiz at the end of this, so do pay attention. This is Campfire.
Like you said, you just know the Campfire.
Game of Thrones tells a sprawling, interwoven tale of feuding families, swords, sex, deception, and the pursuit of power. But could a fantasy series become HBO's next pop culture icon? Campfire needed to create a campaign rich enough to satisfy fans of the well-regarded book series, yet simple enough to enjoy without any knowledge of the story. So we created a campaign that spoke to different audiences on different levels, and generated a groundswell of support for Game of Thrones. We began with smell, sending influencers an intricate scent experiment that evoked key locations in Westeros. Within 48 hours, the influencers had shared the experience with their fans and followers.
This is the coolest swag pretty much ever.
We recreated a Westeros tavern with an immersive 3D sim experience. Visitors could navigate through the tavern, eavesdrop on the common people, and get a sense of the dark conspiracies taking place in the kingdom.
That'd be silver for another dragon. Or two, if you don't want it to spit in it. Shut it, trap down.
Take the black and become men of the Night Watch.
We took fans to the top of the 700-foot wall that protects Westeros.
It was 8,000 years ago that Brandon the Builder built the wall.
Our first-person simulation let fans walk in the shoes of a guard on duty, learn the history of the wall, and feel the cold isolation of those who protect it. From icy north to sultry south, the extremes of temperature in Westeros reflect the stories that unfold there. To illustrate these extremes, we created a climate app that transports you to the region of Westeros that mirrors the weather in your location. We partnered with top chef Tom Colicchio to bring the flavors of Westeros to the streets of New York and LA. Colicchio attracted foodies in the press, and a Game of Thrones themed menu attracted fantasy fans. Each day's dish was announced with a preview video and sent the food truck to a different location in the city, revealed exclusively to our Facebook and Twitter followers. The events had the atmosphere of a fan convention and brought Game of Thrones fans and HBO's target audience face to face for some good old-fashioned word of mouth. Each experience held a deeper level of engagement for hardcore fans. A puzzle or challenge housed at the maesterspath.com. Over 6 weeks, fans competed and communities worked together to unlock exclusive preview clips and get glue stickers. Each challenge was symbolized with a link in the Maesters chain, and participants proudly broadcast their progress to their social networks and recruited novices to begin their own journeys. And while fans celebrated Maester's Path Mondays on Twitter, a less involved audience was able to dip in and enjoy just one sensory experience of Westeros. By the end of the campaign, we'd stirred up conversation and made fantasy relevant across tangential fan communities. And when Game of Thrones premiered, there was an organized and well-established fan culture to shape the conversation and build momentum with each new episode.
All right. How many of you guys have gone to a food truck? Awesome. Yeah, stop it. Oh, you. There we go. How many of you actually talked to the owner of the food truck? 2 of you, 3 of you. How many of you asked the owner, hey, would you promote my video game? They say yes. Here's the reason why they say yes to that whenever I've talked to them. They have a need. That need is? Money, but that money comes from customers.
Right.
Ooh, if I can give my customers about a free game or knowledge about a game, can I get more customers? Does it cost them anything?
Nope.
No. Is there any risk? No. So, most of the cross-marketing stuff you saw in here, you're like, wow, that's hugely expensive. Well, yes, it was HBO on that part. However, you can mimic a lot of that at incredibly low cost to yourselves, other than shoe leather to a certain degree, or nowadays texting, LinkedIn, doing some research. If I say whois.com, how many of you guys know what that is? Okay, for those of you who don't know, it's a way to look up who owns a website and their contact information. Not just their phone, but their email address as well too. Yeah, and physical address. Although sometimes it's a P.O. box to a certain degree, but it does work. You get a hold of them that way. You can find people out that can cross-market with you that may need a community. So, I did a game in 2014 on a bet because a gentleman I talked to said, you can't use Unity to make a game for under $1,000. And I said, sure you can. Well, do it. Fine. A friend of mine, Alan White, was unemployed at the time, and so he had done the artwork with Soma Games with me on my game Bok Choy Boy and Wind Up Robots. And I said, I've got an IP that's been around for 35 years, it has 0 following. That's cool. Shall we do it as a game? He said, why not? So we did it. And this is the property because it's not a Christian game. This property is called Aerocatures. Came out 30 years before Disney ever did planes. He put eyeballs and characters to airplanes. Friend of mine, Hank Caruso. I got in touch with him because I did mural work with Prismacolor colored pencils, and he did colored pencils here. And I told him, you need to do a game, you need to do a toy, it's a cool project. Nah, I'm too old for that, I'm 68. He made calendars every year, sent them out with a mailing list. 7,000 people on his mailing list.
Nice.
Yeah, 68 years old. So he gave me the rights in 2011 for nothing. And I said, I'll make a game, we'll do 3D, because I'm doing 3D printing, we can do toys, we can test the market out. He said, sure, whatever. I said, I'll give you 10%, not a problem. So Alan and I did this on Unity, put on Kickstarter, no community, we had to borrow community. Well, the military loved him, so I went out to nonprofits in the military, gaming military, Operation Supply Drop. Now it's stackup.org, went to them as well too. Online sites that sold keys to computer games, Shattered Crystal, went to them and said, listen, I will make an iconic airplane, Aerocature, for your company into us as a pledge level reward if you will just promote the Kickstarter. We raised $30,000, never did the game. Except as a racing game, because at that time Ouya had come out and said, Ouya said, we'll match funds for anybody who gets 100 people and meets their minimum of at least 10,000 or more. Ouya backed out of the deal because they got 92 people at $31,000 because I had a watch company get a hold of me through one of the community members that I reached out to and said, if you can make this into a racing game, we'll sponsor it. We'll pay you $9 grand through the Kickstarter. That's how it wrapped it up.
Was it a racing game with planes or?
Yep, Air Blue, racing version of Wild Wings. And then Microsoft had a program because they would have ported Unity games onto Windows phones, which by the way, they've laid everybody off of Windows Phone now. But back in 2014, at the end of it, they were paying 10 grand per game. So, the game still hasn't come out yet, outside the racing version of it. We're porting it over into VR. We made $40,000 off of it, minus the Kickstarter fees. And physical goods, which roughly ended up being about $25,000. The game got done, it got marketed, and my marketing expense was zero outside of just contacting people. Christian market space. Christian market space is saturated right now with the publishers trying to find anybody out there outside of their sales and vacation Bible school material and Sunday school curriculum and music. If you are not a top-notch author, and that usually means you're a woman author who is selling self-help books or Bible studies right now, they're not going to spend a dime upon you about promoting you at Christian bookstores or normal bookstores at the moment. So how do you get to that marketplace? Well, the first thing that was mentioned in this video for Game of Thrones was they sent a box of some items to a group. That group was named. Generic group. Does anybody here know what they called that group? You have to raise your hand and rotate it around and speak up. Okay.
I think it was influencers.
Influencers.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Which is, funny enough, a core Christian principle. Because how do we spread God's word? Do we do big events? No. Your influence. Your relationship building influence with others spreads God's word more effectively than any evangelism tool ever invented. It's nothing new to us. Does the Christian marketplace use it? No. Because we don't think that way. There are actually a lot of Christian influencers on YouTube and other sites and social media, and yes, most of them are under the age of 30. And they are working it. They are going to events. Contact them. They can put it out there. And crowdfunding is still great for building up marketing community. There's a little game by a studio called Rovio that came out called Angry Birds, and in 2009 they had 30 million downloads. It's at Digital Kids LA in 2013? 2012, I think it's 2012. Head of Spin Master Toys gets up there to speak. There's 400 of us there. The NFL had just got done talking about how they were going to do their online MMO. And he gets up there and says, I make toys. Cool. He goes, I'm the guy that turned down Angry Birds in 2009. Immediate laughter. He goes, let me tell you the reason why I turned down Angry Birds in 2009. He goes, I didn't own one of these. I got everybody to shut up. He goes, not only did I not own these, the CEOs of the buyers at Walmart's and Toys R Us and everywhere else, they don't own them either. And when Rovo came to us and said, we have 30 million downloads, he goes, that meant nothing to us. How do I assess the risk? Capital investment, what's my ROI on that? I don't know. Again, crickets. Because the digital community does not think that way. We create a game, it's out there, we've got metrics. If it's a hit, we should know within a month or less. We put more money into it, we're done, go to the next game type of thing. You manufacture a toy, you're into it for 24 months. All your retail stores, like the Christian bookstores, need 6 months to a year advance notice to know how to market that product, how to set their internal marketing, coupons, ads, everything else. Mobile moves faster in a heartbeat than that. And that's what you're up against. You're up against a different way of thinking about creation of a product and brand marketing. You can make $1 million overnight on a digital game. You will not make $1 million overnight on a physical good product. So, you want to make a Christian game for Christians. No, you want to make a game for people that has Christian themes. Because if you make a game for Christians, that's specifically Christian in nature, you have now put that niche down so far that will you ever make your money back? So, now if I can't make my money back, why should I make the game?
Because you want to.
Because you want to. That's great. But does it have a purpose to it? And these are the things that the Christian bookstores are saying, well, I make a Bible. I know there's a purpose to it, and there's a buyer to it. Why should I put my marketing effort and dollars behind a Christian game that's going to go to a sub-niche of a niche? Because I'm nice? It doesn't pay for the overhead, as they found out. Now, the two largest Christian bookstores are all non-profits. When I brought my Christian card game Principality to the Concordia group, which is the Lutherans, it went under a liturgical review. Toys R Us does not have a liturgical review. It took 3 months to pass the liturgical review. It was fine. Great, when do we start? We don't do games. So why did I put it, well, we thought it looked cool. It's great artwork. It's got the scriptures and everything, it makes sense, but we just don't do games. Their biggest thing in 2006 was Davy and Goliath, the remake for release for Vacation Bible School. Anybody here ever heard of Davy and Goliath that wasn't on the Cartoon Network Adult Swim channel? Okay. Claymation from the 60s? Late 50s.
Not that great of a show.
Yeah. And they remade it to reach the kids in 2006. 2007, they got a new CEO from Lockheed Martin, I believe. He bought everybody a laptop in that company, Concordia, including the janitor, and said, you all are going to get educated. Then next year, their VBS was an Indiana Jones theme. Let's go out and quest and find out about stuff about the Bible. It blew everybody away because these are the Lutherans. So, is there hope? Yes, there is hope, actually. The focus, though, should not be on Christian retail. It's not going to happen. And the reason why it's not going to happen is because retail overall is slumping to a degree. Unless it's an experience in going to the store, most people buy it on Amazon or other locations or online. Your Christian influencers are already buying it online, or they're going to be buying it at a conference, in which you've got just a few conferences to attend that have thousands of people that go to it. INCM.org, International Network of Children's Ministries, which has shrunk down to one conference. When I went to it, it was 3. I brought Christian games there. and that was in 2005. You've got D12. You've got the Orange Conference in Atlanta, which is roughly 7,000 people. You're not allowed to sell anything there. Only the D12 people get to sell their products there. But you may promote your product. The booth cost is $3,000. You've got the Northwest Ministry Conference up here in Woodinville, over Lake Church, which sees about 1,800 to 2,000 people. And people from far away as Singapore fly to that one. You are allowed to sell stuff there. The booth space starts around $500 on that type of thing. Or you've got Catalyst and music conferences. And I've talked to the guys that put on, oh my word, not the Northwest Music Festival, it's
Creation Fest.
Creation Fest.
Northwest, yeah.
Yep, Creation Fest East and West. And they were interested in games, and they wanted people to come and promote games there. And they wanted $40,000 to do that because they bring in approximately a couple 100,000 people, and that's a value to you to spend that money to them to get them to know about your game.
Does anybody have an inheritance they'd like to share?
So, I go back to the video from Campfire. Influencers, creative transmedia, cross-marketing. You're going to create an intellectual property. You want to put it across everything. So some samples of that. These are what? Any have any idea what these are?
Second cards.
No, they're not cigarettes. You be right going there for a moment there. Yes, I know how to do that. Here we go. Playing cards. Playing cards of images on there. Stores actually sell this stuff too. You can promote your game. Cost for printing these things up if you already have the artwork already done because you've done your game. It's roughly about $2 to $3 per box on a small order of 1,000 units. So you go to an event like PAX, which sees 75,000 people. Sell them for $10, $15 or more. On-demand printing. This is a challenge coin with an NFC chip in it. This is Skylanders. Minimum order quantity is 100 units. You don't pay them up front, you pay them when you have enough orders. $10 a piece, sell them for 20 bucks. Without the NFC coin, they're $2 a piece. I did this for Wargaming. They sold out in 38 hours at $20 a pop. I did it for my own game for Wild Wings as a stretch reward. Ran me $600. I handed out 10 of them. But those were on $100 pledge rewards. Now I've got something to hand out for marketing and those purposes to it type of thing. Those items, these items include codes to your game that people can then share with their friends. Dude, you have to check this thing out. Let's go play cards. Oh, by the way, this is a cool game attached to it. Your game now has another SKU, another item to sell. So when I did Principality, the card game, for my oldest son at the time was 10, it took 3 months from start to finish to create this card game. And by finish, I mean pick it up from the printers, ready to go. And at that time, when I went to INCM in 2005 for the 25th anniversary of that Children's Ministry Conference, there were 6 companies selling green flannel board. Now, some of you are going, what's green flannel board? Well, before the days of this magic here and whiteboards, Sunday school teachers had this green cloth. And in your vacation Bible school programs or your Sunday school curriculum, you would have paper dolls that you would cut out, or on perforations in the back where they have a little bit of glue, and you would stick it to tell the kids the story of the Bible on this green flannel board because it would stick to the flannel.
Those are so
Take
awesome.
them off. Right. And they would have these different, and they would never tear the right way, so Jesus would have like one hand gone because the teacher was, and so that was interactive storytelling in the Christian ministry place for children as late as 2005. And by the way, puppets were still a big thing too. Phil Vischer is still utilizing puppets. Phil Vischer of VeggieTales fame and fortune has built an online portal. Brock Henderson did a lot of the games for him. It's 2007. 2008. Lance and I talked to him, Lance created Club Penguin, about what to do and what not to do. And Phil didn't listen, which is fine, because it's Phil. 50% of the traffic was coming in for games, like do more flash games. Get them to come to your site. You want to pay a monthly subscription and then sell physical goods directly to the parents there. Did Phil do that? No, he didn't do that. What he did was he spent close to $1 million with another company. They did What's in the Bible with puppets to talk about all the stories. They got a couple of Christian YouTube influencers who, Rhett and Link, who later came and did other things as well too. Those guys are absolutely hilarious, by the way. We'll play a video later on. And then sold the DVDs to the churches, and it flopped in retail. Now, this year, he actually has more sales directly to the consumer because he finally put it on his portal so you can buy it directly.
Is it Jelly Telly?
Jelly Telly, yeah. For the whole What's in the Bible series. And that is doing well. It took him 6 years to get to that point, though. So, you as a seller of video games, if you're going to be up for the long haul, think about your game as a brand. Retail physical products are a long tail aspect of that. They don't cost that much to actually create. Because if you get rid of the color, this becomes a coloring book. And 3 years ago, we saw a trend on Kickstarter called adult coloring books.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This pains me. But if you know the history of coloring books, it shouldn't surprise you. They were developed in the late 1800s in the Victorian era age for something for the young daughters to do of culture because they were tired of stitching and cross-stitching, but they liked to color. And they would get together and gossip while they colored.
And still, that's what it is.
And that's what it is.
I've seen so much marketing on that, to relax, rest, drink wine, have a party.
And color.
And color.
And there, here's the funny thing is,
by the thousands.
there's a Game of Thrones adult coloring book as well too. Not all things are adult in there as well, but nonetheless, so that was a bad pun. Forgive me. When I created Principality, the card game, I realized 2 months into it that I had a coloring book. Get rid of all the art. You got the black lines. Kids can color. So, would the parents buy just one card game for $14 for 2 players, or would they buy a card game plus a coloring book plus a T-shirt, all bundled together for $39.95? They'll buy the $39.95. Did it cost me any extra to produce that? No, I already had all the art assets. I just had to put them through other channels. The coloring books cost me 21 cents a piece from a local printer to put together. Coloring books for kids got started by Crayola back in the Depression era. It was for adults, went to kids, now back to adults.
Oh, I guess we have a new thing now.
We do have a new thing for this generation. So when you create your Christian video game, look at it as a brand. Both your short-term and long-term tails to this. Look at your influencers. Get your influencers to become intimately involved in your game, like Minecraft, where they actually have toys now for Minecraft players and YouTubers because they're that powerful. Is that new to the Christian world? No. Been there from the very beginning. You are your biggest influence to your friends and families who are unsaved by saying, look at me and how imperfect I am, the relationship I have with Christ. If you're hurting, I'm here for you. Hopefully you're doing that. Or you're saying, you are going to hell, you sinner. Either way. They both have a result. Same with marketing. Buy my product or, don't. So, does it need a ton of money? No, it doesn't really need a ton of money. If you're going to saturate a marketplace, like HBO did, then yes, you're putting a ton of money into that on that part. FTC regulations have come in now for influencers by law. Did you know when you review a product, you need to say how you got that product, when you got that product, and if you're being paid to review this product multiple times during the video? How many of you guys actually knew that? None of you but one. Yes, 2. Can you buy reviews? Yes, just like you could buy downloads. And a lot of the mobile game companies, as soon as they made a ton of money, reinvested half that money to buy other customers. Customer acquisition cost has gone up. The average cost of a mobile player today is over $8. As a mobile player for a free-to-play game who did not give you any money whatsoever yet, you are buying them for $8. How much sense does it take now to make a 99-cent mobile game when Apple takes 30? So you're stuck to the free-to-play market or you're stuck to a premium market now as a choice. You're going to charge $11 for it. What else are you going to give them? What else are you going to do for them? For the Christian marketplace, to get into the churches, a game can't just be a game anymore. It's got to be able to teach. It has to be able to impart some value that a Sunday school teacher or a parent or a church leader can give out besides go play a game. And so you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to institute that. The great thing about that is, though, comic books are now considered okay in the church. I know. Tim, who was the guy that owned the Christian bookstore company here in Portland?
Who's the Pamplin guy?
Yeah. So his business wasn't actually the Christian marketplace. He made cotton jeans. He was an importer-exporter of cotton for jeans on that part. Phil Vischer was telling me this story, and that's why I can't remember the guy's name, unfortunately, but he presented VeggieTales to him in its rough form, and the guy turned it down. Yeah, sore point for that guy. But when he saw the success of VeggieTales, he launched another project called Bible Man. VeggieTales, Bible Man. Our own Greg Shumsky, who came here in 05 and 06, created the video game for Bible Man. I got to meet with him up at E3 this year. He's working on a VR company right now. He would still love to do Bible Man. In fact, Bible Man is going to be revamped. Apparently, it's now under new ownership from another Christian publication company, and we'll see what happens out of it because...
Dark and gritty.
Let's see how Batman they can go. Christian book companies would like to reutilize something. That's one thing that's great about the Christian marketplace. They don't get rid of anything. You go into a church and you'll find content from 40 years ago. Anybody remember an anime called Superbook from 1966? Thank you.
They're doing it again. It's
They already have.
Yeah, I mean, they're
In 3D CGI. Why did they spend money on some other content that's new? Because
people already
Superbook
know it,
had
so
a
it
wide
like-
appeal. Yep, and the designs were already done. There was no risk. There was another company that did a great cartoon series that did outreach to kids. This company was in the 80s called Hanna-Barbera, The Adventures in the Bible Story. Ah, yes. Cartoon Network owns that IP because they bought the company that bought Hanna-Barbera. Will they release it to you? Not for a ton of money. Do you need it re-released? Well, if you're a normal Christian publisher who doesn't like risk, yeah, you want to because it's already well known in the churches. That's what you guys are up against on that part for branding. And there's a logical reason for this because, again, back in the 70s and 80s, the person who bought all this stuff for the church was, well, nice term we call it the battle axe. She was the church secretary that everything came through to get to the pastor, right? She's the one that bought it all. You had 15 seconds literally to get past the battle axe to get the rings in. It's a term we use. It wasn't a polite term, I know, but you know, they were good at saying no. Chop you right off on that part. That was who the buyer was then. And the problem is a lot of decision makers now were the people trying to sell that stuff back then. And if a church, you have a different responsibility, especially with outreach to kids. In fact, the Bible is very specific that it'd be better for you to be thrown off with a millstone tied around your neck into the water than to hurt a child. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and by teaching false doctrine. So why should I buy your new flamingo project that's all sparkly and everything when it may not tell the truth, where I know this old stuff teaches the truth and it's reliable and we've always used it.
At one point it wasn't reliable, you didn't know it.
Yes.
You had to give it a chance.
So there was a company called Disciple Land that's still around today in Colorado, and they started 17 years ago to do better quality, better products for curriculum for Sunday school. They didn't become profitable, forgive me, until year 13. They were fully funded by a gentleman who was very, very wealthy, who wanted to get this done, who's now in his mid-70s, who's now trying to retire. Carl Bastian, who runs Kidology.org, which was the first online site for Christian Sunday school teachers in the AOL days, in the late 90s, by the way, was on their board. Still couldn't get them to go digital and stuff to this day and age, because the gentleman who owns it doesn't want to deal with risk anymore, because he did this, and it took 13 years to become profitable because it took that long to convince a lot of the churches to use them.
What was that company?
That's Disciple Land, and they're still around today, still doing well. But you got two major gorillas in the room. You've got Group and David C. Cook. Those are the large ones. Standard's not really that effective anymore. Disciple Land is, but they're still small compared to the rest of them. And then you've got 52 Basics. 52 Basics from the Lifeway, which is the Southern Baptist Church, which is part of the Orange Conference on that part. It's hard to break into that. So, what can you do? You can make a video game for that niche, or you can make a generic video game that's for the secular, like Angry Birds. There's nothing wrong with Angry Birds. And then if you want to spiritualize it, redo that game, retheme it into a spiritual setting if you want to. Thing is, the same playing audience who's going to play those games are the same playing audience that's playing Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, everything else. Because we have not had a generation growing up that says, okay, video games, you can only play this because there's an alternative to X over here, like we've had with Christian literature, music, and film, which is kind of hard to do. And I say if we're out there to preach the world, or to reach the world with the gospel, to preach to the world, put the game out there. Steam is great for that. Mobile is great for that. Don't just aim for a niche audience, because if you do aim for that niche audience, you better be tied into a curriculum or another physical item to reach the churches. They're just not going to buy it. They're not going to sell it. They're not going to promote it. Now, the Aether Light is doing well because they are funded by a gentleman who had vision. Back in the late 1900s in New Zealand, this guy produced the Sears and Roebuck catalog, basically, for the New Zealand shepherders, because they like sheep in New Zealand. And those shepherders needed supplies. This guy realized that he could, and I'm giving a very quick story on this part, he could send them supplements because some of those people couldn't get to church on Sundays. And he created the Pacific Coast Sunday School Movement, I believe it's called, PSSM. And before he died, he gave them this vision. We should always use today's technology to reach the lost.
Nice. Very nice.
They had the same problem, the same arc with publishing. It went up and went down. And they had a review in the mid-2000s. What should we do? And they hired a consultant who said, you know, video games are a thing. You should look into that. I got to meet them in 2013 because when I was attending the Northwest Christian Ministry Conference run by Gary Dixon, he used to do luncheons for children's pastors, and he would bring in acts. And one of those acts was a musical group called the Lads Band. Does anybody ever remember the Monkees from the 70s? Were the current Christian equivalent to the Monkees. They were cool. You know? Cannibalism is Wrong was a great song. Cannibalism, they had, the Bible was people hurting other people. Don't eat that heart. Don't eat that. Great song. My Best Friend is the creator of the universe. All about the plants and everything. Wonderful songs for the 6-year-old to the 18-year-old range on that part. It was great. I got to meet them in 2007. They had a Christian comic book. They were promoting their stuff. They had their music, and the characters in the comic book represented them, kind of like the gorillas in that aspect. And they had to have their own TV show. It was like very much like the Monkees. They ran into Tim Cleary from the Aether Light. Literally, Mark bumped into him in line at a Christian music festival, which is now closed in New Zealand because they ran out of money. They've been running for over 30 years. And they got to talking, and the guy goes, well, you know anybody in Christian video games? Mark's like, I know one guy. So Mark gives me a call on my cell phone. January 2013 on a Sunday, right in the middle of my Sunday school class. Because it's Monday in New Zealand. And all my kids know him anyway, so I put him on speakerphone. He told me about this guy, and so I reached out to the Aether Light, talked to Tim, talked to Carl, and got them to come out, and 2 months later at the Northwest Ministry Conference, we started meeting Christian companies about how to get this game developed. And at that time, they were developing in Flash. No, Unity. Let's go Unity. Go forward on that part. And that's how I got involved with them, because you never know who you're going to meet at all these different conferences. If you're going to get into gaming, I would also recommend you look at other conferences, not just this one, not just gaming conferences. There are Christians in other industries who could use your talents, and gaming, gamification of products, of ideas, of concepts is rapidly taking off. Educational gaming especially. Not educational gaming on STEM or STEAM aspects, but educational gaming for HR, human resources. Ethics. There's a big emphasis for gaming on ethics now as well too with companies. So when I did took the gamble on, I can make a game for $1,000 on Unity for Wild Wings, I got to go to, in 2014, Tailhook. Anybody know Tailhook? This is a fighter pilots group. Naval Marine pilots who land on aircraft carriers. They got in trouble in the mid-90s in Vegas for some wild parties on the 4th floor. Some inappropriate behavior because of the volume of alcohol they consume. They moved to the Golden Nugget. I got to go there to show the game Wild Wings because Hank always has the booth there. They absolutely love Hank, the aviation artist. Give him a free booth. So we got to promote our game. The funny thing is the more they drank, the better they played the game. So I got to meet rear admirals who'd walk up. This Tailhook's interesting. The U.S. Navy comes in, and it doesn't matter who you are, your rank. It only matters at how well you can fly that plane. And there are people, we got to meet a 94-year-old gentleman who flew F-4F Wildcats in World War II, 400 night traps on the aircraft carrier. And back then they only had flashlights, no computers. And he was chewing out a rear admiral for how bad the pilots are nowadays for hitting 3 buttons on an F-18 for the automatic landing system. It's quite an interesting conversation. We got to meet Rear Admiral James Robb, who retires, who's a retiree who runs the NTSA and ITSEC, the International Training Simulation Education Conference, who was interested in video games because they started the Serious Games Challenge 10 years ago when they wanted to increase the quality of the games because the U.S. Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, and the Army, and other entities are all looking at games to teach. Why? Because the average person going in now as a private up to a first lieutenant can handle 6 or 7 different devices, but majors and colonels can handle 1. How do we reach them? How do we get active to them? The U.S. Navy is going to an e-training program where everybody gets issued a tablet as part of their uniform for training purposes. Schools are doing this. South Korea is replacing all their physical books with tablets. And the Christian marketplace is huge in the homeschool movement. And the largest homeschool conference in North America is in Florida in the spring. 50,000 attendees, and these parents love to spend money on their kids. So you create a game, you can create the same game mechanics and turn it into a teaching game. You can take those same teaching mechanics and turn it into a spiritual teaching game if you want to as well too. That one IP now, that one brand, that one engine, that one mechanic you create now has got 3 purposes to it. And you haven't spent money for each one completely. You spent money for one and then a little bit more money to tweak it and send it out. Yes?
I think an underlying principle here in taking the Bible is go where the people are.
Just work back then. So we had an issue, if you remember, Tim, back in 2007. Does anybody here, if I say hot coffee, does that say anything to them? Yeah. Yeah. Grand Theft Auto got in a little bit of trouble. One of the programmers had a sex scene in the game, and apparently went through a lot. And then at the very end they said, oh, we can't do this. So instead of pulling out the code, they coded over the top of it, and somebody in the Nordic countries hacked into it, hot coffee. And that became a big thing. In fact, Walmart started pulling the game off the shelves. We actually had interviews from ABC News come here and goes, there's got to be something better. How could this ever happen in gaming? You know? And we had our heyday in 2007 with the media for that. Grand Theft Auto is an amazing game. Has anybody ever played it here? as a sandbox. You can just walk around and talk to people on that part. I actually talked to YWAM about utilizing this as an urban missionary tool. You're going to go be an evangelist in LA, Puerto Vallarta, Brazil, foreign countries, urban areas. You need to know what the people are like, how you're going to talk to them. Why not use this engine for it? And Rockstar was actually open to it for a few months. And then the furor of the media about how bad Grand Theft Auto was to allow this died down. And there was no more interest in it anymore because there was no pressure about why they should change. But here is a game that already made its money that could be, with just a couple of tweaks, used as an evangelism tool to train people. And do you have to have gratuitous violence and everything in there to train people to be aware of it? No, you don't. But you have already got it built in, you just tweak it down a little bit. But look at how flexible that game could have been for other purposes and uses. So a lot of game studios out there will build a game for one niche, for one product, and here it is, and out you go. And I say, take a look at what you developed and see what else you can do with just some minor tweaks to the game, because you've already put the time, effort, and energy and money into it. Why scrap it all and start with another game, another content, another project? Look what you can do with that game and spread out with it, especially in the Christian marketplace. Denominationalism is a pain. There's a Christian comedian who once asked the people in the audience, how many of you guys are Lutherans? How many of you are Episcopalians, Mennonites, all down the list? Catholics, all the way down. And people are raising their hands left and right. He goes, isn't it great that when we get to heaven, we're going to find out who was right? Now,
That's right.
the Mormon Church has its own bank. They actually have funded game projects and movies because they go to one bank, Zion's Bank. Is there an AG bank? Is there a Mennonite bank? Is there a Foursquare bank? Is there a non-denominational, denominational bank of the non-denominationals? We don't have that infrastructure. It's amazing what the world has already built up on that part that you're going to be up against. And that's why I say when you build your game, you need to be creative. You need to start advanced marketing for it. Look at other things you can plug your product into that could potentially build up revenue or influence people to start talking about your game, get people to download it. How you do outreach for it. And not a lot of it costs a lot of money, to be honest with you. Zazzle. Has anybody heard of Zazzle? Okay. Has anybody heard of Cafe Press? Okay. Zazzle replaced Cafe Press. Zazzle's print on demand, everything from postage stamps with your icon on it, to skateboards, to rugs, to cups, you name it. Put your stuff on there. People will buy it if they know about it. And that allows for virality to potentially build because they'll share it with their friends. And it doesn't cost you a thing other than a few minutes of your time to set it up. If you're worried about e-commerce or an online store to set up, go to Shopify.com. If you hear of Shopify, they handle all your in-app purchases, all your purchases online, even Bitcoin they take now. There's a lot of these tools out there. Because again, like the head of Spin Master Toys said, if Rovio had come to him and said we had sold 10,000 shirts, he would have understood that metric, the risk, and been able to say, I know what to do with your property. But they came to him and said we have 38 million downloads. He didn't have a clue what that meant. And retailers want physical items to move. So you need to show them what that is, other than the fact they have a great game. But the Christian marketplace for Christian retail right now should not be your first choice. It can be an add-on choice later on, but it should never be your first choice right now. Your influencers are going to be your pastors, your youth leaders. You're going to find them at various conferences, various events, or online, but not at Christian retail. Yep.
It's not about being deceptive,
No.
it's about being resourceful and creative and making use of what
Right.
we have available to us.
So Paul said we are in the world, but we're not of the world, right? This is the world. Kids now at the age of 10 know what we used to know at 15, and this is a double-edged sword. I can tell you I've had conversations with a lot of parents who go, yeah, my kids bring their laptop in their bedroom all the time. Now, personally, as a parent, no. You look at the history of the internet, the reason why it's free is because of porn. The reason why you have a VHS player instead of a Betamax. You remember a Betamax? It's because of the porn industry. They chose VHS over Betamax. Haptics, VR, funded a lot by that industry still. There's a reason why Facebook spent $2 billion on Oculus Rift when it was almost bankrupt. Because
Scary.
I am Facebook, I'm the white pages, why not have a relationship? Why not connect to your friends? And by the way, if you look at that industry, it has driven more technology and more communication aspects in the 80s on than any other industry out there. Believe it or not. So, you talk about influence, what this is? This is a computer. You can access anything with this. It's a double-edged sword in that aspect. And parents have no problem handing this to the kids and say, go play a game, not knowing what's on there. But we have the ability to reach those same kids, those same people, everybody around the world, because everybody's a gamer. There is no specific age demographic anymore, race, creed, height, width, you name it, hair color, with or without hair, everybody plays games. And you can teach and impact people through games far more than any other medium out there, period. It's the most cost-effective way to spread an idea nowadays, and ISIS has already proven that. And yet the church still doesn't quite get it. Because if I'm not handing you God's word in a Bible format, then I'm not really working, because they have built up their foundation of people donating money to their cause around that methodology, and only that methodology. And by the way, the amount of people giving under the age of 50 is only half compared to those who are giving who are 50 and older. But eventually that demographic is dying off, or God may come back, one of the two, we don't know yet. So how do you reach the younger demographic? How do you get them engaged? And how do you get them to donate money and time in that effort? Well, honestly, games.
The universal language of fun.
Got two? It is a sin to bore a child, not bore as in bear birth, but to bore them to death. The gentleman who created YWAM said that. He also created, no, not YWAM, forgive me, not YWAM, it was, Speed the Light, I'm mixing them all up. Campus Crusade for Christ, and then what's the one for high schools? The outreach. Young Life, thank you, that's the one. So there's so many other Christian organizations out there that can really utilize games. I can get them all, stick them in my head. I've talked to most of them, and a lot of them would like to do it. They don't know how, they don't have the budget for it, or they don't believe their donors will give them the money for it. So.
But they're good at distribution.
They're awesome at distribution. And your biggest thing now as a game developer, if you go to any of the conferences, Pocket Game Connect, GDC, E3, PAX Dev, any of those, is customer acquisition, player retention, and those now, they're all saying influencers, online influencers are key to that. Even the Christian Marketplace has those. So we have, how much time do we have? What time is it?
It's 10:25.
Okay, we get done here in about 10 minutes or so. So, who wishes to be brave, who has a video game that has actually come out? And not sold, but has actually come out. Who's here has launched a video game that's actually come out? Okay, come on up here, Neil. Pull up your site. We're gonna swatch it.
Swat.
Somewhat.
Strengths, weaknesses,
Oh, yes, wonderful.
But actually, in this case, we're looking at a marketing potential and outreach. So, go ahead and play the trailer real quick. How many products can he make from that?
A bajillion.
And before anybody gets to answer, I'm going to look at you and, you are too late. You can't see the product from that part. That would have been really funny though. Ben,
Yes.
stand up, sir. Name one product you can make from that.
T-shirts.
Absolutely. That was easy. Okay, just like Sunday school, Jesus and God are not the answer. Questions?
Jesus wept. Jesus wept.
Yeah. T-shirts are a given.
John 3:16.
What's another given that we're not going to mention? Go for it.
Oh, that we're not going to mention?
What you may mention, what we're not going to mention. Action figures are a cost. Those are 2D. Are those 3D? No.
Paper dolls.
Funny enough, a paper doll book on Kickstarter just funded to the tune of almost $40,000.
Right.
So, on that, you pipe in nicepapertoys.com. Nike and Reebok have actually sponsored paper toys and paper toy collectibles. You know what's great about paper? It's cheap. You can print QR codes on them. It's call to actions to promote stuff. Hand them out at events and sell them for $1 or $2. Go ahead and scroll down just for a little bit. Nicepapertoys.com. Samurai Jack. Do not discount paper toys. They are phenomenal. Okay, so thank you, Ben, on that part. Now, I'm going to call on you, Mike, right now because you have been to Barnes & Noble because you work at Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble over the last 5 years has increased its toys, not its books, its toys, physical games, puzzles, immensely.
Yes.
And the sales have increased because of that.
Yes.
By the way, they also own 30% of GameStop, in case you guys didn't know that. So go ahead and stand, Michael, and tell me from your expertise what other product you can, go back to your, I apologize, your game. Back button.
Hit back, hit back.
Just click on the back button.
You're doing it wrong.
Right there.
Oh, what the?
I'm not worried. Go ahead, stand up, but what's another product you can play?
Board games, plush
games.
toys,
Plush toys?
coloring books, obviously.
Absolutely.
Any kind of soundtrack, especially if you're going to make it vinyl. Vinyl is huge.
Vinyl is huge right now. In fact, by the way, if you want to, Starbucks has their own record player for $200 you can buy.
Is it USB?
And with a USB plug-in too.
Fan fiction.
Fan fiction, thank you. I knew you were into that. Okay, fan fiction. User-generated content is the holy grail because that means your fans are engaged. The problem with most game companies is they either A, don't want to give over control, or B, their fans may write something bad. So you have to give the illusion of control to your fans and have them write. That means you can control the theme, the subject matter, and still be able to do that and promote a social media channel on that. So post your paragraph about a new character you'd like to see in the game and post it on Facebook or tweet it about it. We will pick the top 4 people and one of you will get in because all of your friends need to vote for you being the favorite. Well, they're going to tell their friends to like your page, to vote on it. You now own that IP, by the way. Awesome. Thank you, sir, for that. I appreciate that. Who else has a game that they have launched? All right, come on up here.
No, I can't, I'm not techie, but my husband did.
All right, fine. We're going to go. Yeah, come on up here. Alan, pop in right here.
Oh boy.
Speed up, Seth. You're running out of time.
All right.
We down to 30 seconds yet?
I got 30 second trailer.
2 seconds and 30 seconds.
Yeah,
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
And you can type.
Look at that.
Type faster.
Quicker. Well, I'm going to, well,
All
Tim
right.
said I could do it.
Jim, we'll get in charge, so go for it.
All right, so you have a 2-minute or 1-minute video?
Yeah, let's see. We'll do. Oh, this is an easy one.
Well, an easy one's fine. Here we go. All right.
Alright. You can hear my happy voice.
Introducing Bible ABCs for Kids, a fun new way for your kids to learn the alphabet while discovering the Bible. With every letter finished, your child will see a character straight from the Bible with the reference included. If your child gets stuck on a letter, Bible ABCs for Kids will guide them through it. Choose between lower and uppercase. Bible ABCs for Kids. Kids learning through God's Word. Hey.
Coming soon in 2014.
Awesome. All right. Shem, what's a product that they can have with that?
I like a matching flashcard game.
So absolutely.
You know, the letter and the character, put them together from memory.
Flashcards, yes. Coloring book, easy enough.
Yeah.
T-shirts, yes.
Sticker book.
Sticker book, absolutely. You can do vinyl stickers on that part as well too, remove and take off. But you can do not only an ABC coloring book, but a book about how to learn your ABCs around God's characters as well. And you already have all the art done, you just need to edit it, put it together in the book in that part. We have run over our time, sir, so I apologize.
Thank you.
So,
That's great.
well done.